Hi, everybody. This is Carolyn Mora
and Rich,
Rich Mora. We're from Mora's Wines in
and one of our
Usataka.
pups.
And that's Marty, our grandpa poodle. Hi,
Yeah.
Marty. Jovi's walking around.
It's a little past our bedtime, so we're a little
tired.
fuzzy.
Yeah, but we're here to do our second tasting for you. And we're just going to tell you about the theme of the tasting.
Okay, so we're doing Germanic varieties. Germanic varieties of grapes grown, of course, in Germany, but also Austria, Alsace, in the States. Basically, cooler climate, white grapes that happen to be perfect for this time of year, for summertime, for fresh, lighter foods, for foods that are hard to match with wines. And we're always amazed at how much how little they know about the Germanic wines and how versatile they are with food. So that's and we have a really wide range. It's not, people think Riesling, but it's way beyond Riesling. So.
It is way beyond Riesling. I did have Jovi, our Havanese, up for a minute, but she had to go down on the floor again. I wanted to mention as well that the Germanic varietals are particularly well suited to takeout, which is a really big thing now that New York is on pause, and also barbecues, which are starting to do. Whether you have some really cool spare ribs or some steak, these varieties are wonderful. They are traditionally lower in alcohol, which is also good for the summer months. If you're going to take them to the beach or anything, you're not hitting up with like a 15% alcohol wine. They're a little lower. Because of that, they have a higher residual sugar, which also works very well with food. So.
Okay, so just we're doing 5 of the wines. We're featuring about 14, so we got a big list of wines. If you check our website, we're going to taste through actually 5 of them today. Thank God they're low in alcohol. We're going to do a Gudedel, a German Gudedel, Riesling, the classic German variety, but from the Finger Lakes, great area for Rieslings. Gruner Veltliner, that's the Austrian grape variety that's really becoming popular. Great Alsace wine. Alsace borders Germany and has a lot of Germanic influence. We have a great field blend from Marcel Diess, and we're gonna throw in an Austrian red, the Prieler. Yeah, the Prieler at the very end.
Yeah, so, and it's delicious.
I guess we'll start pouring
good.
And tasting and talking about these.
Okay.
We want to get into the food pairings because these are such food-friendly wines. And since they're lighter, I mean, they're all great food wines, but some of them we categorize as great quaffers. Sometimes you just want a glass of wine. And I mean, you want something that's interesting, that's got something to it, but it's light and it doesn't really need any food to go with it. So we're starting from lighter to heavier. We're starting with one of the cutest labels in the world, the Gertie and Max from Baden.
Yes.
That's one of the warmest areas of Germany, southern, southwestern Germany. And the grape variety here is called Gudedel, rhymes with food ladle. It's also known as Chasselas in Switzerland, and I have some theories about some other grapes that may be related to, but that's for another time. But so it's a warm region, gets good ripeness, but it's still lively and got good acidity. Yeah. Let's taste it and see what we think, and suggest a few things to go with it.
While we're starting to taste, I just want to say when I do tastings, I often do Gertie and Max at my tastings because it's got 12% alcohol, which is low, and it's absolutely delicious with or without food. It's got a great label.
Okay, so on the color on this wine, I definitely get some color. These are all fairly light-bodied wines. The Riesling is really pale, although that has no reflection of the flavor. This one has like the color of like some kind of pear or peach flesh.
I agree. Yep.
And on the nose, I get a lot of pear flesh.
Yeah.
And Carolyn pointed out before some almond or almond cake.
Yeah. Almond.
Definitely very, very nice ripeness. A little bit of like lemon, Meyer lemon hint kicks in.
Oh, that pear is glorious.
And on the palate, you get the tree fruit, a little bit of citrus, and then in the finish, that bright acidity that's traditional of these cool climate grapes comes through. And some I noticed with all of the wines, you definitely get some spice and some mineral notes. Not a lot of mineral in this one, but I get like a touch of clove or something in there.
Yeah.
Maybe some baking spice that's in the almond cake.
Yeah.
So what would you have this with?
Thank you.
Oh you had, yeah.
You're good though. You're very good. You slid right into that. I'm impressed. Okay, Gertie and Max. So I was looking up food pairings for these things, and of course, cheese. Cheese. They don't have a lot of foods that they think go with it. I think if you were going to have a fruit cheese plate for dessert, that would be wonderful with it, or just that for
Veggies,
lunch.
salads.
A fruit heavy salad for lunch, like veggies for lunch with heavy fruit in it, would be great. What was neat about it for me is that it reminds me of sort of Redwall. So there was this set of books called Redwood Books by Brian Jacques, by Brian Jacques, that went heavily on food, things like jams and cream. And when we were tasting this tonight before we tasted it for you, I thought, wow, this is like totally a Redwall wine.
And the characters in Redwall are these timid woodland creatures too.
Timid woodland creatures who save the world, by the way, for those of us who feel like timid woodland creatures often. So give it a shot. And if you do love the Redwall books, or anybody you know loves the Redwall books, get them a bottle. They'll love it.
That's the Gertie and Max.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're going to what everyone thinks of when they think of German wine, Riesling.
But
Riesling is truly one of the noble grapes. Just on a little on the side, grapes that I consider noble are grapes that keep their character no matter where they go, and they are well traveled. They go because they have so much character, and they're such special wines. People cultivate them around the world, and so wherever they go, they pick up a little of the local flavor, but they still have their own character. And Riesling definitely has made its way around the world. Unlike a lot of these other ones, which are very cool grapes, very unique, but they are rarely grown outside of their region. So we are doing a Finger Lakes Riesling, another cool climate area. Originally, way back when we were starting to cultivate grapes, they didn't even think that the vinifera grapes could grow in New York State and in upstate New York. It's just too cold. But we found out otherwise, so we don't have to drink all of those funky hybrids that they came up with. We could drink great grapes like Riesling this one's from Redtail Ridge on Seneca Lake.
The western side? I think it's the western side of the lake.
And
it seems like they're all on the western side.
A little about I'm going to just mention some terroir, some of the soil characteristics. The Riesling blocks for this vineyard are clay-based with a little calcareous soil, which means got a little limestone in it, but the base is really mostly clay. And then in tasting this one is definitely the palest, maybe hints of yellow and hints of green in it, but it's definitely the palest colored wine. Riesling and Sauvignon Blanc have lots of aroma, lots of flavor, but when you're looking at them, they tend to be really, really pale.
I love it. The first flavor on the palate is a sugared apple, and as it moves to mid-palate, it becomes a green apple. It's gorgeous. I'm going to capture our puppy for a second. And while I'm capturing our puppy, I do want to mention that Redtail has been nominated 2 years in a row for the James Beard Award. It's a really huge award for alcoholic beverage. It is the only winery in New York State that has been nominated. It's a national award, so that's pretty incredible. And you taste this and you know it's a great wine.
One nice thing about Riesling is when people come to me and they're looking for varying degrees of sweetness, some varieties, like just red wine, take red wines, are either dry or they're really sweet. But Riesling, since it's grown in so many regions and in so many parts of the world, it runs a spectrum from can be bone dry to super sweet and everything in between, and you can kind of dial in whatever you like. On the back of some of the labels, they even put a little sweetometer there, which shows you how sweet or dry the wine is. So this is Redtail Ridge's dry Riesling. They make a dry and a semi-dry, and it's got definitely some more focus. It's definitely a cooler climate than the Baden climate for the Gertie. Super like a laser beam focus of green apple. The minerality comes through a little bit more.
It's okay, we're
why
fine.
are we not seeing ourselves?
We're fine because it's timed out.
And on the nose and the palate, I get some green apples, some yellow flowers, green tea, and a nice lengthy thing.
Green tea.
Yeah.
That's what I was
A
getting.
little bit of green tea.
Yeah. I do want to mention when we say that it's dry, I don't think it's bone dry. I've had some Rieslings that are bone dry. This isn't. This has a healthy touch of sweetness to it, I think.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it sweet, but it's got a nice taste to it. If you want to pair it with some food, definitely use this with your Asian food, your Thai food, anything super duper spicy, even Mexican is great. I think it's funny that one of the tasting notes I found for it mentioned corned beef.
Yeah.
And, while all the other ones I'm going to agree with, I'm thinking if I'm going to have some corned beef, it's not going to be with the Riesling. But it's all good. That is
one dish I love from one of our local restaurants is a pork chop that's got caramelized apples and sweet potatoes on the side. And the apple-y taste in this, I think, would complement that really well. And that underlying acidity will cut the richness. This I would also consider like a nice quaffer wine. Not totally mindless drinking, but like maybe a wine of contemplation, something you can sip and enjoy without any food.
Yeah, Rich, what's the alcohol in that? You could.
Yeah, all of these are fairly low.
I think that might be around 14. Is it?
This one is. Wait, I make these numbers small. 12.5, I think.
Again, 12, so it's kind of low. Good for the warm weather.
Yeah, Gertie is 12.
Yeah.
The Tegerenhof, the next one, is I think 12.5. It jumps up a little bit.
Yeah.
So now we're going from New York State Riesling to the classic Austrian variety called Gruner Veltliner.
This one has a huge statement when you drink it. It's like heavily acidic. It likes food or it doesn't like food. It's delicious. I love Gruners, but they are like really the whites. They have their own mind.
Okay, so this is the from a winery called Tegerenhof. That region of Austria, it's from the Wachau region. That region, the Tegerenhof winery actually has roots going back to 1100 from the Benedictines were cultivating grapes in what is now the Tegerenhof winery. The family, so yeah, 1176. A little about German and Austrian wine laws. So what we're pouring here is this is the entry level to Gerenhof. It's just their basic everyday wine, but it's what's called it's categorized as a Federspiel. If you know anything about German wine law, there's the QMP law rules, Qualitätswein mit Prädikat, and you might have heard of cabinets, Spätlese, Auslese. Those refer to the must weights of the wines. In cooler climates, it's often a struggle to get grapes that are ripe enough and have enough must weight to produce decent wine without playing any tricks. So for quality control in Germany, if they're QMP wines, you have to follow strict rules where you can't play around with the grapes at all to get the sugar levels up. And same thing in Austria. Austria has their DAC laws, which covers the whole country, but the region of Wachau has their own particular laws that they're really picky about. And the very, very basic, the most basic level of ripeness are what are called, we almost never see them here. They're the Steinfeder grapes that produce really light, almost like Vino Verde weight wines that are mostly just drunk in Austria. Just like those are definitely quaffing wines. The meat of the production of these quality wines go into these Federspiel wines, which would be sort of comparable to what they call cabinet wines in Germany, if you've ever heard that term. And that basically means the grapes have to reach a certain level of ripeness to produce a minimum level of alcohol, so that you have wines with more body, more character, and more length to them. And they're produced totally natural, no additives, nothing to concentrate the sugars, nothing added. They're very, very strict about their production techniques and about just letting the wine make itself. So that's just a little about some of the Austrian wine laws. Then the level above that is Smaragd. Those are rare, the highest must wait. Some of them become dessert wines. Some of them are just full-bodied, incredible wines that you don't see very often. So let's go and taste.
You're very smart.
So what do you think of this one? This one's got a pretty light color too.
Yeah, it has.
Not too far from the Riesling.
Yeah.
Very intense nose. This is definitely not just a wine for throwing back. This definitely wants some food.
It's almost piquant.
Mm-hmm.
Almost.
Yeah, on the nose I'm getting a lot of baking spices, some zesty citrus rind.
Mm-hmm.
Stone
Yeah,
fruit.
orange rind, yeah. Stone, yeah.
Yeah. A little bit of some kind of spice, maybe some green peppercorns.
Mm.
And instead of that acidity kicking in the finish with like a ripe upfront flavor, you get that laser beam focus like right from the get-go.
Mm.
So that richness will cut through fatty dishes, will bring out the flavors in a lot of dishes.
I know now where I'm getting the sunflower from. When you take it the way you were saying it was right up front, you get the orange rind right away, and the sunflower and the orange rind are right.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting some
right
kind of flower too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you sunflower.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a yellow flower or white flower.
Yeah,
but
and then near the back of the palate, in the finish, there's a little graphite there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I get like a little salinity in the finish too.
Yes. Yeah, me too.
So for me, this is definitely not a quaffing wine. This would be, with that salinity, with that focus, be great with some oysters on the half shell, raw bar stuff. Definitely sushi and sashimi.
No tomatoes. Don't go near a tomato with it.
Yeah. And then also you could go with saltier stuff too if you want a wine to have with your popcorn. Grilled pork dishes, Thai, grilled, not too, like with the Thai and the Indian dishes, you don't want too much heat. If you do get like something that's got some spice heat to it, actually a touch of sweetness helps to balance that out and helps to make the wine really complement the food.
How about vegetable dish? If you were
I'd say
vegetarian,
grilled
doing
vegetables.
This would be really nice.
Because that char and the smoke on the grilled vegetables will really complement.
Do you know if this is
zinginess.
organic or vegan or anything like that?
I'm not sure.
Biodynamic or anything like that?
I mean, these guys are super strict in their production, but
I
I'm
don't
really
think we
not
looked
sure.
at that when we were doing it.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys go to a lot of trouble to get certification, and don't put it on the label on the little document somewhere.
But this is definitely a great wine for any kind of vegetable dish. You might be doing something with tofu. Would be really great, a fried tofu. Yeah, anything, any grains mixed with your vegetables would be really, really, really good. This one's fun.
Yeah, this one's fun. We're going to Alsace.
Really good.
Yeah.
I love this.
One of our favorite producers.
Ah, it's wonderful.
And one of our favorite wines.
Yeah. So what he does, if I could start with this one, and then you can pick up on it. So this is a field blend of 14 varietals that they have there, consisting of Pinot Blanc, Pinot Gris, Pinot Noir, Sauvignon, Muscat, and Gewurz, and other things. The nose is immediately Gewurz. You can't even smell anything else, but in a beautiful way. For my money, sometimes Gewurz, the smell is terrific, but then when you start to drink it, it's just too thick for me. It's too sweet for me. But this varietal, just with the other things in it, really sort of calms that down. The Pinot Blanc alone is going to calm down any sweetness, I think.
Yeah, but a little Gewurz goes a long way.
It sure does.
I mean, it's with the 5 or 6 other varieties in it, the Gewurz is probably just a little percentage. But yeah, right off the bat, on the nose, I get like a hint of that lychee that you always get from Gewürztraminer, that lychee nut. But yeah, this is an amazing wine. It's just got so much complexity. It's definitely the darkest color of all of them. I mean, I get
Yes.
like a little bronze and copper almost.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, like I was saying before, it looks like an autumn gold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it feels, you know what? It feels like a more mature wine than the other whites. I know that sounds funny because it's a white and you don't really think of age and maturity on whites or anything, but, well, I guess
You mean
real wine people do,
bottle
which I'm
age?
not.
Like it's aged a
No,
little
no,
longer?
no, no, no. Just the profile, the heft of it, I
Mhm.
guess.
Oh, it's
No?
definitely hefty.
Yeah.
This is not one of the quaffers.
No.
This has got some flowers in it too.
It has.
Mhm.
Yes. Beautiful white flowers.
Yeah. I get the baking spices, white and yellow flowers, stone fruit pits, little lime
This
zest.
actually, for dessert, like if you don't like dessert wine and can't drink dessert wine, you could drink this for dessert beautifully and easily.
Mm.
With all but like the most chocolate of desserts.
And this
it would
has,
be charming.
it's not a tart acidity, it's like this lip smacking acidity that makes you want to eat something. Yeah. And on the palate, you know, the zest, the citrus zest comes through, like the peach pits come through.
Yeah.
Definitely the flowers
Mm-hmm.
and that like lip smacking, lively acidity and a long finish. What are we pairing this up with?
We are pairing this up with pork, which I think is great. We could do a whole pork dinner with the cherries and everything in it. Again, spicy foods, Thai, Indian food. Indian food to be like really, really hot in my experience.
Grilled bratwurst.
This would be great. I didn't think of bratwurst, but you bring up a good point. With a lot of these wines, if you do food pairings, they don't necessarily go into food that's like really native dishes of the countries in which these varietals start. And that's always, like Gertie and Max. Okay, they say do it with this or that, but there's also Wiener Schnitzel or stuff like that, which I can't even pronounce. But if you're in that country, it's going to go beautifully with that as well. So always remember that if you're doing some nice ethnic dishes, the wine from that country is going to be particularly well suited.
This could be good with your sushi and sashimi, and on the palate you get like a little bit of smoke. So, salmon dishes could be good with this, especially like cold salmon or smoked salmon. Okay, we are still.
I think this would be with like olives.
Yeah, it's not as saline in the finish as the Gruner, but it gets some of that. So, definitely be good with like some appetizers.
Yeah.
Like feta, something with feta in it.
Feta would be
or olives.
so cool with this.
Speaking of feta, I think I'm going to be fading pretty soon.
Yeah, speaking of feta, we need to eat soon.
Yeah.
It's like it's 10:30 and we haven't eaten dinner. That's like the life of a wine merchant.
Yeah, but we keep soldiering on.
We do. We stay strong.
Okay, one more wine to go.
And this wine is so good. You know what? After tasting all the white wines, before we tasted very low, but we tasted the red, and it was like, boom! It was beautiful, big and beautiful, and I think perhaps bigger than Blaufränkisch really is because we had been drinking it. We had been drinking the white wines. It's gorgeous.
So this is the Prieler Blaufränkisch, also Austrian, from the Burgenland, southwest Austria, a little bit warmer. You need a little more warmth to ripen red grapes. So that's where most of the reds come from in Austria. So just to recap a little bit, the Gruner was grown in very well drained, very deep sandy soils. The Prieler comes from a combination of a little limestone, schist, and shale. And let's see, the Riesling was grown in clay. And the red tail, the Riesling was grown in clay. And we don't know about the Gertie and Max. Oh, the Diess.
The Gertie and Max
the Diess has some
it was
granite
grown
and some
in Redwall in moss flower woods.
Okay, that's where we.
I really do need food, people.
Yeah, next time we'll have to bring out some food.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Before we did this, I suggested, next time we do this, we should have at least a baguette or something here, some bread, and yeah, some food to really be able to taste it with.
So this has a nice intense color.
It has
Reminds me
that
of like some of the
cherry. Oh,
like some of the Lagroin or some of the
that
northern
notes,
Italian
yeah.
reds in the color. The weight is like medium bodied, and the nice thing about some of these Germanic
So
varieties is the
cool.
reds. A little chill works great on them.
Yeah.
You know, we're not seeing none of this is stuff is done in barrels, and there's no really very little tannin except anything that comes from the skins. Um, so these are wines that'll do well with a little bit of chill, especially if it's hot out. And this just has like just a lovely nose that just jumps out of the glass. A lot of black fruit and some baking spices. Definitely some clove, tar, and it's got like
Black cherry.
it's got a little brambliness to it, like a little briary quality.
Yeah, it does. But it's got this, for me, this glorious black cherry, so deep that you would think like it's a blackberry or something, but it's got that sweetness to it, and the tar for me is on the finish. It's got a very long finish, but very gentle, and there's just the most gentle feeling of tar. We were talking about the foods for these wines tonight, and I was mentioning don't do tomato with this, don't do tomato with that. This is a wine that you could do some tomato sauce with, a light, a pasta with a light tomato sauce, not going too heavy on it. Certainly.
Definitely burgers and steaks.
Yeah, burgers. Yeah, steak. Steak was not mentioned as a possible thing, but a steak, don't do too much with the steak. Just let it be nice and clear, and this will work beautifully with it. Chicken,
yeah, like a strip or a.
Yeah. And again, I would say, like, I wouldn't go for like asparagus or anything in the vegetables, but if you wanted to do a pasta dish with a little tomato sauce and some vegetables in it, if you're not a meat eater, you could definitely do it. Just be careful of like asparagus, which generally, actually, I think the Gruner would be okay with asparagus, but none of the other ones. Yeah.
Yeah, asparagus is tricky. Asparagus and artichokes.
Yeah. I didn't even think of artichokes.
But on the palate, it's deceptively light bodied because the nose just jumps out of the glass at you, and on the palate, it kind of, the flavors just kind of bounce from cheek to cheek in your mouth, and you get that intense black fruit, black cherry, and raspberry.
I'm getting the Black Forest thing again.
Black Forest cake. Yeah,
I'm getting that Black Forest.
I'm getting like,
I'm
getting the actual Black Forest.
No, the meat. Yeah, the Black Forest. The meats. Oh darn it! Like those sort of.
Oh, like cured meat?
Cured meat. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You get a little of that?
A little bit, yeah. On the very end.
I'm getting a little bit of rusticity here, but it pulls together really well.
Yeah.
It's all pulled together, and it's got that core of that beautiful fruit. So
it's nice. It's one of those wines that you actually love wine for. It's neat.
This is really delicious.
It is.
This is the highest in alcohol. It's 13, but
yeah, it's really it's terrific.
I think we should wrap up and have some food.
Okay. So I'm going to very quickly wrap up for you. I do want to go through the other ones that are featured on our.
Oh yeah.
On our website.
We got a list of 14.
Yeah, we have a list of 14, and I will go through them very quickly. Although I don't have to because you're watching this afterwards. Yeah. So really.
Anthony Road is another Finger Lakes Riesling you may be familiar with. If you already know the Anthony Road, definitely try this Red Tail Ridge.
Yeah. And I do have to tell you, in terms of New York wines, as Long Island is particularly well suited for Merlot and Cab Franc, the Finger Lakes seem to be exquisitely suited for Riesling. We have some great stateside Rieslings up there. Arndorfer Gruner.
It's a little riper, a little more toward like the Smaragd range than the T26 that we just tasted. So it's going to be a little riper, a little fuller, less less of that spiciness, and then the acidity will be a little more toned down. But it's a really beautiful wine from Chris Troy's company.
And
yeah, by the way, Anthony Road is O-Pee-Chee. Thanks, Paul, Yolanda. And
thank you, Paul, Yolanda.
Red Tail Ridge, I think, is Winebow, although these things bounce around so much. I want to give a special shout-out to another red variety called Zweigelt. We're featuring in our list, we didn't pour tonight, Fritsch Rosé made from a red called Zweigelt.
Beautiful.
Which is going to be, a little, well, it's not exactly like Blaufränkisch, but you would expect, you'd expect it to be a little more austere, but it's a beautiful in the rosé version. It just expresses this like lovely strawberry fruitiness to it.
glorious.
It's dry, but we were figuring that it would go great with a strawberry rhubarb pie.
Yeah.
Especially if it's got like a little tanginess to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask you though, are Zweigelt and Blaufränkisch blended together?
I think they are. I think they are in
Are
the
they blending?
the Luston
blending
Lieben. Isn't that a blend?
I think the Lustenlieben, maybe that's why.
Yeah.
So let's go to it. The Lustenlieben is also one of our featured wines from Austria.
Yeah, it's Zweigelt, Saint Laurent, and Blaufränkisch. Just a little Blaufränkisch. That's another one that our friend Tom from Weinbo brought us.
Yeah. And coming back to Long Island, Channing Daughters, one of our favorite Long Island wineries, does phenomenal things with all varietals. They have a Blaufränkisch that's a little bit Dornfelder as well. They also have a blend that's called Dorn and Blauendorn or something.
Either Frankischfelder or
it's one or the other.
Blau.
But anyway, the Channing Daughters Blaufränkisch is beautiful. It's actually the first Blaufränkisch I ever tasted, and I loved it. I made Rich bring it into the store, and it's great for fall, but anytime at all. And this is anything from Channing Daughters.
We're featuring a couple of classic German Rieslings, mainly both from the Mosel. J.J. Christoffel is a state Riesling. He's located in Urban. And then Dr. Fischer, they're in Ockfen. We have a Bockstein Riesling, a dry. It's got a high must weight, but it's vinified dry. It's really unique. Actually, we found tasting notes for the Dr. Fischer that describes it as both dry and sweet because it's ripe but made dry. And the Bockstein vineyard is what they call a Grosse Lage. They're starting to classify vineyards in Germany as like sort of the way they do in Burgundy, where they have Premier Cru, Grand Cru. So they have like GG vineyards and Grosse Lage vineyards, which means literally great growth. So those are two real. If you want the classic German Rieslings, those are two great Mosel Rieslings that we're featuring. And what else do we have? And I think we covered them all. Yeah.
I think. Did we get and the other Gruner? Oh no, that's the one we did.
Yeah.
Okay, Rich is just so smart. I marvel at him and his knowledge of wine because it just sort of flows off his tongue. He's not like being all like, I don't know. He's not all teachy, but it's just like this is the way he speaks. He just knows so much, and he's so humble, and I just think he's so cool. But anyway, apart from that, enough about that. I wanted to start doing a book a week with all of our tastings. So while I was doing the Gertie and Max for one of our wine club inserts, I remembered that the person who brought it to us was Rudy Eilers through a company called Wines for Food. And it was a distributor.
That was a long time ago.
Yes, it was a distribution company that was led by Willie Gluckstern. Willie Gluckstern is sort of the renegade of the wine world. He was a buyer for Nancy's Wines in New York City. He's now a buyer for David Bowler Wines. Bowler?
He does something with Bowler.
Yeah. He is.
But
he's a master and champion of German wines, and we were talking about German wines here tonight. So I picked up his book a couple of days ago through Amazon, which is the only way you can get books right now. And it is a great read. It's a quick read. It's irreverent, which is always fun for me. And, it's basically an opinion piece, so you can take or leave whatever you want to, but it's definitely a book worth reading. I learned all about malolactic fermentation from this book, and it's just, again, if you want to know about pairing foods and wines together, it goes into that. It goes into a lot of goofy stuff, but it is, above all, entertaining, as all good books should be. So if you have a chance, pick up Wine Avenger, and certainly when all of this pause stuff clears up, if I'm done with it, you're welcome to borrow it from me. Just let me know. Okay, and I think that's it.
Yeah.
We went over, and I'm so glad to be able to spend more time with you. We hope we can see you all soon. Again, if you are able to watch this, please leave comments. We are going to be going live either next week or the week after, and I would just love to be able to bring you what you want to see. It's really important to us. We hope you are all well, and can't wait to get back to normal again. Good night. Good morning. Have a great day. Have good dreams always. May your dreams all come true.